close. Okay, we're ready.
We're good.
I think we're good.
Let's do this.
Ready to go. Hi, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of You Got, a Game of Thrones podcast, or as my manager so lovingly referred to it as today, the Dragon Show podcast, or the podcast about dragon shows.
Yes, the podcast about the Dragon Show. And my name is Carly.
Yeah, my name is Sophia.
Yes. My God, the Dragon Show. The Dragon Show.
I think that's maybe what the title of this episode should have been.
It's just the Dragon Show.
Or the Drogon Show, one of the two.
Yeah, which honestly, like, who hasn't wanted a giant episode of just, like, pure dragon fury, but, oh boy.
At this cost, I'm not so sure. We're here to talk today about the penultimate episode ever of Game of Thrones.
Yeah,
titled,
it is the penultimate episode of Game of Thrones.
Literally
the
ever.
Show.
This is what we're getting.
Oh boy.
So, yep. It's called The Bells. Yep.
Boy, is it.
Certainly is. And holy moly, that was an episode.
So much happened. Not much happened. So much happened.
That's a good way to say it, because it's like so much, not that much like in terms of plot actually really happened. Like it takes place in a small amount of time during this one battle, but the things that happened during this one battle,
Yeah.
Hoo boy. I think the outpouring of both love and criticism for the Bells is more than I've seen with any episode of Game of Thrones ever. Like this is, I think this episode has the audience so divided.
Yeah, I completely agree. It's actually been really fun to hear that debate, because I feel like this season, people have been pretty much in agreement about, like, this episode was great, this episode was terrible. Like, it's been pretty across the board agreed upon. And this episode, man, it was, like, kind of right down the middle. And there didn't seem to be much middle ground. Like, I know that you and me went back and forth about a lot of how we felt about certain parts of the episode, but overall we know how we feel about the episode as a whole, and that kind of seems to be the way with everybody. And it's nice it's been so nice as a fan to have something to kind of debate about, and to have, like, you know, is the dress red or is it blue or is it gold?
Oh, it is
debate.
It is exactly like that. It's like either you loved this episode or you did not like this episode. And I actually had to stop having debates with people, because I was like, I'm going to get angry at you now, because we're not going to come to a conclusion here. Sorry, we're not. Either you loved it or you hated it, and that's okay. That's, I think, what makes maybe why I'm okay with how this episode at the end of the day.
This episode is actually politics.
Yeah, it really is.
We have two different opinions. We're never going to agree. So, like, let's just call it a day and go eat some cookies.
Right. I think you and I should probably get our feelings out in the open right away, right now.
Throw them all out there.
And in order to do that, I think we should just get the beard rating out in the open. Let's just do it, because I think that our audience deserves to know yours and my stances off the bat.
Yeah, no, I think that's perfect for this one.
So we're changing it up. We're changing it up. We're switching it up. We want y'all both to know where we stand, because it was a divisive episode. I think it's a good way to go. Without further ado, my beard rating of the Bells is none other than Brandon Stock.
Oh my God.
Yep, that's right. I think it's a perfect metaphor, my dears. I love metaphors when it comes to my beard ratings, as you know. Perhaps because he's one of the most talked about characters on Game of Thrones, just in terms of his action or lack of.
Yeah, all the things he's done this season.
Or lack of. But right now, it's just... it's a perfect metaphor for how I felt about the episode. He's supposed to be this, like, incredible character who is tapped into the Weirwood network, who can see the future and the past and knows all of history.
He's supposed to be God.
Exactly. And yet...
not so much.
Not so much. And...
I'm
not saying that that's how I feel about this episode in terms of storytelling. How they're telling Bran's story and how they told this episode's story... It all just feels similar to me. Don't get me wrong. Miguel Sapochnik did a beautiful job directing this episode. It was maybe one of the most beautiful episodes of television I've ever seen. Also most gruesome. But I'm not upset with that. I'm not upset this is Game of Thrones. But it feels like the writers have been doing Bran such a disservice this season that the beard rating just feels right to me. The Bells failed too many people, and I can't quite let that go. And by people, I mean characters. Characters, not people.
Wait, are characters, are they not people to you?
At this point, in Game of Thrones, I'm not really sure. I don't know how to answer. Like, yes, they used to be, but at this point, they kind of seem like caricatures of themselves.
That's fair. I do also want to say that the Lord of Light, an omniscient character who does exist apparently, who we've never seen appear once, not once, has been more useful this season than real boy Bran, than
Pinocchio boy Bran.
Oh,
yeah,
I hate him.
So anyway, yeah. So that's my beard rating. Maybe it's a little roundabout, but I felt it was apt. Carly, what's yours?
No, I love it. My beard rating, and I'll be honest, it's the first one I thought of, and it's maybe a little simple, but I'm just gonna go for it. It's Tormund, because it was just straight fire. It was just fiery red the entire time.
Yes, very solid description of what this episode was.
Yeah, well, don't get me wrong. Like, it still has its problems. Like, in Tormund's beard, you know that it's just filled with crap. Like, there's just a bunch of stuff in there. Yeah. There's probably just secrets he's saved for later, and, like, food and crumbs, and just
stories you don't want him to tell.
Stories no one wants him to tell that are just kind of stowed away in those, like, tufts of red. Like, there's a lot of problems within the fire. But it was fire.
But it was fire.
It was
and that's the thing. I like Bran. I like Bran.
You're alone in this between the two of us.
All right. Well, I used to like Bran. Bran now, unless Bran becomes king, which we'll talk about later, he's pointless, and that's why I hold hope that maybe one day he'll be important.
Can you imagine him as a king though? Just like
yes.
King Bran, we need you to decide what to do because the crop's suffering. What will be will be.
No.
Well, no, but hey, can't let that go though, cause like we gotta eat.
No.
In time you will know what you must.
We will find food.
There's no rain.
When it comes.
Winter's definitely come. It's freezing cold. We actually didn't prepare for this. Any tips? Like can you look and to see what we can maybe do?
No.
I'm going to go now.
Good luck.
Yeah. Or he helps them grow crops and goes, I'm going to grow now.
Oh, goodness me. I just got chills.
Anyway, let's talk about the rest.
Okay, so let's talk about the episode. That's our beard rating. It's all over. There are two sides of a different coin right there, but I kind of appreciate.
Really,
I kind of appreciate the difference.
Beards you can possibly get. Yeah.
One has no a beard.
Anything.
God, just rain on Brian. Like
I
rain
don't
on
like
Bran's
him.
parade. All right.
I
hope he's king just because of how much you hate him. Like I hope that he matters so much at the end of this season.
That's what I'm afraid of.
I'm hoping. I'm holding out hope. Let our young boy Bran be important. Thank you.
Please
Thank you. Even though he wasn't in this episode. Neither was Tormund. Ironically, both of our beard ratings weren't in the episode.
Oh, that is actually very interesting. Actually fitting.
I think maybe it would have been better had they been. Okay.
If Bran is on the throne at the end of the show, if there is a throne at the end of the show, it'll just have kind of gone with all my expectations of like, yep, this show wants to make me cry in not a satisfying way.
It's hot garbage. Flaming hot garbage.
And we love it.
Let's dive right into the episode. Let's dive into the bells. I think what's a good way to do it is we're kind of just going to go through point by point what happened, and then at the end, you and I are going to dive in to Daenerys.
That's really all anybody wants to talk about, and we're going to save just a huge part of the episode for Dany talk.
Davos talk we're doing away with this week. It's Dany talk, because Davos talk, unfortunately, what was he in this episode, Carly?
He was the true Onion Knight and made us cry by how useless he was. I was trying to go with like a leftover onion in the kitchen.
I like it. Yep. No, he did make me cry like a leftover onion in a kitchen, or a new onion that one would cut. because he was useless.
Isn't useful for the meal.
Right. He literally did nothing. You didn't even see him swing a sword in this episode. No. So that's fun, and that's why Davos Talk doesn't exist, because it would be Sophia harping again. So we will do Danny Talk instead.
Yes.
But first, we should talk about the episode at hand and what happened before Danny decided to do what she did.
Indeed. It's a little sliver of hope that you still had at the beginning.
That this episode was holy moly amazing. Oh my god, oh my god, oh my god. And then
oh my gosh.
It's still, it was awesome. And I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. Okay. Same. So we open with Varys. And the death of Varys.
And the death of Varys.
Alas.
R.I.P.
brother. Spider, cheers to you. You lasted from season 1. And you died by fire. As a black fire should. I still totally agree with the fact that he's not a merman. He's not a merman. He's a black fire.
I think he's also
Although that merman theory is one of the best. And if you haven't seen it,
look that up. It is still one of my favorite
I think
theories.
it's an Alt-Shift-X video.
Yes, it is.
So what happens is, Varys obviously knows about Jon's true lineage, and he's writing letters to the lords.
Yes, he's the friend you don't tell anything to if you want to keep that thing a secret.
That's Sansa, actually.
Actually, that's Sansa. That's a good point. All of them
Tyrion.
This was like the worst game of telephone.
It is.
Because the information got through completely clearly.
Right.
It was kind of great to open to Varys writing the biggest secret, in the entire world and sending it out. Because I think for a really long time, everybody has wondered, why is Varys still around? Like, what is his end game? Yeah. We all know what his desire is, like, in the end, which is just to see who should be on the throne, sits on the throne.
Right.
But how he does that, I think was kind of up in the air until now. And I think that if he was going to go out in any way, he probably went out in the best, most fitting character way he could have.
I actually agree. I saw some people arguing that, like, he didn't have a contingency plan. And actually, I think he did have, I think he did it. I think his contingency plan was to send out all of this information before he got killed.
Yeah.
Before he got discovered. Before Tyrion sold him out. Which, that's okay. Tyrion has a queen. He's hand to the queen. He can't lie to her.
Right.
So I understand why he did it. He has a role that he needs to play.
Right.
It sucked because Varys is his best friend. So he was choosing between his queen and his best friend, which is, painful in and of itself. Yeah. And so when, Varys is being burned, before that, not when, Tyrion is not next to him when he's burned, I'll just say.
Still holding hands.
But before that, Tyrion does, like, touch his arm. And in the behind-the-scenes episode, I think it was the director was saying, we were doing this scene, and, Tyrion goes up to touch Varys, and Varys, like, got this look on his face. And I asked the actor, like, oh, why did you make that face? And Conleth said, oh, well, Varys has never been touched before.
And so much.
I know. It's like this. I think it's layered because one, like he doesn't have many friends. He doesn't have any friends. So for it to be Tyrion that betrayed him, but also Tyrion that he knows loves him and was doing it
for the realm. For what he believes is right for the realm.
Right. And then for Varys' last words to be, "I hope I'm wrong."
Oh, that was. Those last words were perfect.
Yeah, for this episode
that was a foreshadow if I've ever seen one. Like that, oh my god. Ugh.
Well, also can I just say I want to call out the shot when Dany is standing there and then all of a sudden Drogon appears. I gasped. I was like,
I melted out of my chair.
There was something sexual about that.
I was extremely turned on.
Okay, there she is. I I just got to get her there. And there was something about that where it was black, and all of a sudden Drogon's face comes out, and you're like,
well, I think that that's the first time we've seen her or Drogon as kind of a villain character. Like, to me, that's the first time that and then we'll get into this later, but when she landed on the wall, when she's actually like mid-attack, not the wall, but like
one of the buildings,
a building, both of those times, that was the first time I've looked at her and gone, oh, they're bad now, huh?
Yeah, no,
like they're just villains now.
She and Drogon are just gone. They're far gone.
Yeah, they're far gone.
Yeah. So after Varys is burned, Dany lets Tyrion, or maybe before, I don't really know. Dany lets Tyrion know that they have captured Jaime.
Just tells us. Because why visually tell a story in a visual medium?
She tells us.
Tell, don't show.
He was trying to sneak past our ranks, and we caught him. I'm like, just like Cersei caught Missandei, right? Like, Cool guys.
The theme of
solid
this season,
storytelling.
The theme of this season is if you want to see it, you probably won't. We're not going to show you.
Very good. That's an apt description if ever there was one. And then in what could be considered perhaps the most well-acted scene of this season, besides Miss Amelia Clarke, which we'll get to later, Tyrion helps Jaime escape with the aid of your boy Davos to apparently, save Cersei and ring the bells. But the scene in and of itself is really, really lovely. And they talk...
I love that scene so much. I cried in that scene because that's one of the scenes that felt the most Game of Thrones to me.
Me too.
Oh my God. It felt like pure Game of Thrones back to the first season, like when they were close. And I mean, that is true to both of their characters. Like Jaime really was kind of
Tyrion's everything.
Yeah, he was his rock.
He was his protector.
He was, yeah.
And so for Tyrion to finally return that favor, only to send Jaime to his death.
Well,
but still, I mean, Tyrion does return the favor, and that was, it did feel like old Game of Thrones again. You know what I mean? It felt like a moment where we were watching two characters we've watched for so long and grow apart from each other, and then together, and then apart, and then together.
Yeah. Finally
have this conversation and culmination where they know they weren't going to see each other again.
Right.
They're on opposite sides.
Right.
But it felt
they have been before, but this felt more kind of imminent,
right?
Which it was,
but it felt good, and I loved that scene.
It was a perfect scene.
I was very grateful to both those actors for acting their hearts out.
Part of me wants to believe that they just improvised the scene because the writers were like, we don't know how to actually write this.
Yeah, you guys know the characters, put you two in a room. You know these characters really, really well.
It was an acting exercise that they accidentally filmed, and then they went, oh, well, we could use this.
I would love that. I would love it if that were the case. I'm debunking. Yeah, canon.
Yeah,
I'm
canon.
debunking the fact that they wrote that. They didn't write it. It's canon that was ad-libbed.
We do have to give credit where it's due. It was a very well written, really beautiful scene.
Thank you, I guess.
Thank you for this one little
sliver of this sliver.
It's a sliver.
So then that happens. Then we get the assault on King's Landing, or the start of the assault on King's Landing.
Which they kind of used Balerion's method a little bit. I thought it was closer to it than it actually was. It's not quite as close as I thought, but I've been wanting there to be a little kind of allusion to Balerion, who was the dragon that was used to like conquer Westeros, basically, during Aegon the Conqueror's conquering.
Yes,
said that word a lot of times right there.
Beautiful sentence.
So I was really hoping that would be kind of brought back, and I was super excited that there was something sort of similar. So 300 years ago, when Aegon Targaryen first started his reign and started his conquering of Westeros, in Fire and Blood, which is the history book of the Targaryens, and that's like the one thing that I have up on Sophia, because it's like the one book I've read a little bit of.
She loves her Targaryens, let me tell you what.
I really do. I'm sorry, I do. But Aegon Targaryen took Harrenhal, who refused. Harrenhal would not bend the knee. Harrenhal would not budge, and their thinking was this castle is basically too strong and too stone to be taken, which isn't the case because Aegon.
Not
Targaryen,
when you have a dragon.
not when you have Balerion the Dread.
I was about to say Balerion the Dread.
Oh my God. So
Big Bertha.
Oh my God, this Drogon I think is probably the second largest to Balerion, so still very large. But anyway, so
Balerion's like 3 times the size of Drogon, 2 times the size of Drogon.
I'd say 2, if that. Because anyway, there's a comparison picture that I'll show you. So Aegon Targaryen attacked at night, and what happened was Aegon Targaryen. This is from the book. It's a quote. Aegon Targaryen took Balerion up high through the clouds, up and up until the dragon was no bigger than a fly upon the moon. Only then did he descend, well within the castle walls. On wings as black as pitch, Balerion plunged through the night, and when the great towers of Harrenhal appeared beneath him, the dragon roared and he blew everything to fire. So he...
eloquent
said
ending
George
there,
R. R.
Carly.
Martin. What I love about this beginning of the attack is Dany uses her environment. She uses the cloud cover to kind of almost pull Balerion where he's not, Drogon isn't visible, and then she attacks. And what does she attack first? The scorpions, because she finally learned something, which is great.
You'd think she would have done this a few episodes ago,
or
but
given her dragon's armor, but that's fine.
Drogon's still no armor, by the way.
No armor, 0.
Like,
which is fine.
You're riding your child into battle, and you're not even going to dress him up, Danny? What's up? What's up with that?
Everybody likes to put little shirts on their pets.
Why isn't she different?
Put a t-shirt on your dragon.
Toss a t-shirt on him. It's not that hard.
Toss a t-shirt on a lizard.
So she basically wipes through the Iron Fleet, all of the Scorpions, and then you get a great shot of the Golden Company lining up outside the castle walls, which, in terms of a tactical advantage, there is none to that.
0.
Keep your army safe within the wall.
Yeah.
So that they can protect the people. Didn't make any sense.
That happened in the Battle of Winterfell, too.
It did indeed.
Nope.
It did it again. Tactics. Exactly. So there's no sense, obviously. The writers really know war tactics.
Super well.
Super well. So you get a great shot it mimics, actually, the shot of Jon looking out over the Bolton army in the Battle of the Bastards, but instead it's Harry Strickland looking at the army of the North and the Unsullied, and apparently all the Dothraki that survived.
And have somehow, kind of increased in number.
Same with the Dothraki. Yep.
They found some more.
Yeah, they found more. But you get this really menacing shot of Harry Strickland as Jon in the Battle of the Bastards, but he gets murdered, instantly. It's just this one kind of moment where you're like, oh man, maybe he's gonna mean something finally. And he gets murdered because Drogon blasts through the wall. Yep. Straight up blasts through the wall, kills the entirety of the Golden Company, and within almost moments, King's Landing is taken. They and the bells ring out
pretty quickly. It doesn't take long. The Golden Company themselves are kind of you know what, screw it. They throw everything down. They're ready to be done.
Right.
Which is insane, just because it was the Golden Company is so intense. Oh, the Golden Company is awesome. And then they come on screen and it's
they should have brought elephants.
We saw them drop it. They should have brought elephants. There should have just been elephants.
There should have been elephants, obviously.
This is why you bring elephants.
Always bring elephants to a war.
That's what my mom always told me.
I know.
Yes.
If I've learned anything from my mother, it's you always bring elephants to a party.
Always bring elephants to a party. You don't show up without the elephant.
Before the fall, before the surrender, you get the Hound and Arya making it through, and you get Jaime not making it through and being forced to go around.
Yes.
Now, so you see Arya and the Hound, they make it through the walls, and then they're in when, obviously, hell rains down.
Yeah.
But Jaime is now on his own path because he needs to fight Euron.
Oh. His true destiny. Oh, my God.
To duke it out with the Pirate King.
Euron is like a spider that you keep stepping on, and it just won't die.
Yeah.
We thought... I knew... Okay, as soon as the ships went down and, the Iron Fleet was kind of taking... I was kind of there's no way he's dead. He's gonna...
No, he has to... Of course, he's the only character that gets an on-screen death in this episode.
Which is insane to me. Why would you give him an on-screen death we care about this character? And then when it comes to fast-forwarding a little bit, Cersei, for example, we don't even get to... I'm sorry, I wanted to see... On Mother's Day, I wanted to see this mother burn.
I know you did.
I
know you did. You saw another mother burn instead. Ouch. But back to Euron and Jaime, just because that's, it happens, and then there's a long time that goes between when we see Jaime again.
Yes.
Euron is just pointless. This scene, it didn't need to happen.
No.
The only reason that it happened was for Euron to get satisfaction. Which just...
Yeah.
And for Jaime to obviously die, but Jaime doesn't die. That's not how he dies.
Right.
So the scene made no sense.
Was the scene so that we know Euron died? Because
I think so.
We didn't see him die, though. That's my thing. I'm half expecting him to come back next episode. Oh, I honestly would not put it past...
No. Let Yara have peace.
Please.
Let Yara have peace.
Thank you. Let Yara have peace. Oh my God.
And let her show up next episode. Holy moly.
Where was she?
We'll get to that. I don't actually know. I don't know. We won't get to that. I have no idea. We might see next episode, or we just might never see her again. Similar to Mira Reed. Okay, so hell breaks loose. Dany rains fire down on the innocent folks of King's Landing. Grey Worm and the rest of the Northmen start to just straight up attack all of the Lannister forces that have thrown their weapons down and surrendered. We get the battle from John's point of view, and we get it from Arya's point of view.
Yes.
I don't know why Arya was there.
My kind of theory is that she was there, to kind of rediscover her own humanity a little bit, because we do see her near the end of this episode saving people and taking the time to do that, where we've really just seen her be an assassin for a really long time. So I think seeing her in that role was a character, not twist, but like growth that we needed to see. I also think that I think that she needed to be there for her list to be able to be thrown away. Because I think up until now she really did.
That's a good point.
Yeah, she was going to kill Cersei on the list, right? Exactly,
and the mountain.
Exactly, Cersei was still very much on her list, and when she says Sandor instead of the Hound, which by the way,
that's a huge thing.
Huge deal. That was amazing. Oh my god.
She's never once called him like even a name.
No,
like honestly,
the Hound was on her list, but
right.
Sandor wasn't.
Sandor Clegane was not on her list.
Nope. And so her saying that to him, and I think him kind of taking her by the shoulders and going like, girl, like, leave, go away, you're done, you save yourself, this is insane, like, I'm not coming back, you can though. I think that was kind of the last thing it took to have her like shaken back into humanity a little bit. And I think that
she's not this cold-blooded killer.
Yes,
she is Arya Stark,
and she needed to get rid of the list that she had to do that, to be able to become fully
that
Arya again.
I like that, and yes. I hadn't thought about that, and I really appreciate you bringing that up. My issue is just like it just felt so back and forth. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, okay, this could have happened in the last.
She's died. She didn't
and she's die. Not no one. She is no one. She's not Arya Stark. She is not a lady. Nope, she's not. Oh, what? Decide. What are you? Which I get. She's a young girl. She takes her time with it. But writers should already know. The writers should already freaking know what she is. I'm sorry. Don't pretend like. Don't have her. My issue is that anybody could have been a point of view character for the audience in this battle. I'm glad that it was Arya because it was a girl. That's really cool. The last one we got was with Jon. Although it could have been Davos. It could have been Grey Worm. It could have been any character that was supposed to be there for a reason.
Yeah.
It just felt weird to me that Arya was the only character that we were following and she felt out of place.
Yeah.
Like it did feel out of place. And I do agree. I agree and I understand. I appreciate you saying that because it feels better. It makes me feel better.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, okay. I feel a little bit better. Okay, cool. She assuaged her list.
There's a reason.
She erased her list. It's gone now. But I just think that there could have been a better way to tell that story.
For sure. There could have been a better way to tell a lot of these stories. But yes, I agree. It felt weird and out of place, and it kind of felt like we were just following her because they figured she might be a fan favorite after a couple episodes ago.
But it's like, okay, that's cool, but we got to give some other characters some time.
It's time,
it would have been cool
boys.
to like follow Pod. Or follow like any minor character through that battle, because we've seen Arya fight. We've seen her. We just saw her be afraid not 2 episodes ago in the Battle of Winterfell.
Yeah,
like just give some other characters some time, because we don't have that much time with them left.
Right, exactly.
I think that's where my biggest issue.
Totally agree.
Jon was useless.
As usual.
In this episode.
As usual. As his character progression has proved.
He's literally looks around and is like, fire. She's burnt.
She did it.
She's burning them.
No. Oh.
He does stop.
I sided with the bad guy, huh?
Right, he does. He like has, it's Jon's realization that he's on the bad team, right? He's on the bad side, and he's always put himself on the side of the living, on the side of the good. He's always thought of himself as a good person. So I think what they were trying to get across with this Jon standing there doing nothing was that this was what he was thinking about.
He was frozen in his sudden realization that,
but we're not in Jon's head.
No.
We need words. We need words.
He's not a man of many.
He's not a man of many. Also, like, I get it. He was, saving people in the battle, but it just didn't.
He wasn't doing much. Like, he was saving people, but so was literally everybody else. He didn't do anything. I maybe try to flag her down or something. I don't know, like.
Right, he didn't even make it, like, try and stop her.
No.
Or chase her or look up at her and be like, oh my God, I gotta get after her.
Yeah.
Like, there was nothing. And so he was in shock, maybe. I don't know. John, you've been through a lot, okay?
I mean, to be fair to you, in the Battle of Winterfell, he kind of stood there a lot. Just kind of stood there.
Right?
Shocking. Like, I think a while ago when we all said, like, oh, Jon, you know nothing, Jon Snow. That was big for a while. And then, Ygritte died, and it was like, okay, R.I.P., R.I.P. But then it was like, okay, listen, like, Jon knows a little more than nothing.
Right.
Like, it's an old season. Like,
John's
saying.
been through a lot now.
He's been through a lot. Like, let's stop with like the Jon knows nothing. He's way better now. No, he knows nothing. Like, that was an accurate character description. Anyway,
he has actually learned nothing from his past experiences. Yeah. So there's that. And then, I mean, literally, I'm like, so much of this episode is action. We're almost at the end. Next, we have, I believe it's the Clegane Bowl.
Oh, yeah.
Right before that, though.
You mean the special side quest of Dark Souls and Bloodborne's crossover event?
I do exactly mean that. You pepper in dragons, like you pepper in the freaky ass prosthetic of the mountain, and you really do have a Dark Souls boss. I mean, like, he could be Vort. He could not Vort, but he could be Vort. He could be the corpse rotted Greatwood. He could be anybody. Like, small. Yeah, okay. I'm just there with it now. Now you've got me on a roll.
Sophia's in a debate with herself. Yeah.
I'm just thinking Dark Souls now. All right. But no, it did feel very, again, video gamesy, and I feel like they've been pulling a lot this season from like video games.
They have, and okay, I know Clegane Bowl was cheesy. I know it was over the top. I know it was. I know.
So much, Carly. Sophia. It was so over the top. It felt like I was watching a cinematic movie. And I was like, with Drogon flying over on the staircase, I was like, these two characters, I'm sorry, like, the Hound deserved it. The Mountain did not.
But Sophia, I kind of loved it.
I did too.
I kind of loved how cheesy it was. I did too. I don't even care.
I was like, you know what, guys? Give it to me. Just like,
do it. Just let it happen. Like,
drip it all over me.
Just
like
drip that good cheese. Just spray the cheese.
Not
with.
Velveeta. It is better.
No, it is high end canned cheese. Like the highest end canned. When Drogon flew across the screen in the background,
and you got the mountain like walking down toward the Hound.
Loved it. But, and like not listening to Cersei anymore and her noping out.
And
okay.
The Mountain just straight up murdering Qyburn.
I
was like, what? I was like, oh.
I've been wanting to see that happen for seasons, and it was too. So like uneventful.
Satisfying. That might have been the most satisfying thing of the episode. Yeah. My favorite part of the episode was Cersei just like, just like, I'm gonna just step right around right here. I'm gonna, excuse me. I'm actually just gonna.
Let me just squeeze her by you.
I gotta go die under some rubble now. Thank you.
She wasn't. She. Let me squeeze her by you. She Midwestern. She did.
If she were from the Midwest, she would have oped it.
She's from the Midwest, Rose.
No!
Oh my God!
Break after that one, holy moly!
I'm sorry. Let's keep going.
Where were we?
Oh, it's Cersei walking by.
She noped right out.
She noped out?
She oped out.
See, that was a good one. That was good. You're getting there. I'm so proud.
Sometimes, Carly. Sometimes. So, Clegane Bowl. Yeah. I think that it gave Sandor the story that we wanted for him. And that can't be said for a lot of other characters in this episode. So, I'm... Literally everybody. What? Sorry, you a frog in my throat. Are you
same?
Good?
Oh my God, same time.
Whoa, weird. Yeah, it gave him a really well done arc.
Yes.
And not redemptive in any way. It was just his story. We followed Sandor through. I mean, maybe it was redemptive in that he told Arya not to become him.
Yeah, and yes, through his story kind of led Arya down a better path. Mm-hmm. He used his story to help someone he cared about so much. Go down a better path.
So much love there.
There's so much love for oh my god, Daddy Hound and small baby Arya. Like, oh
and
my
Sansa,
god.
like he's just like, let me protect my little birds.
My little bird. Oh my god, he's
Let me
such a good
protect
father.
my little birds.
I love him.
No, I really do. So R.I.P. Sandor Clegane, man, you went out like a champion
In the fire.
And that he faced his biggest fear in his death
his
too.
biggest fear, and
His brother and fire.
Yeah.
All at the same moment.
got his vengeance.
1-2 punch.
Yeah. Oh my. And I've talked to a couple people who were not happy about that ending. They thought like, oh, he deserved more, and I was like, no, he got like his. That was maybe the best it could have gone.
What else could he have done?
What else could he have done? It was a perfect arc. I loved it.
I'm literally trying to think, like, what else? What else? Maybe it would have been cool for him to kill Qyburn, just because, like, you know,
not even.
But
I
not
kind
even
of love
like,
that Qyburn's
it's a
own
Frankenstein
creation.
moment,
Yeah.
right? Like it's a Dr. Frankenstein moment, so
Yup.
it works.
Mary Shelley'd.
Mary Shelley.
He got Mary Shelley'd. It was so good.
Shelley'd hardcore.
Loved it.
Yeah. So now we have Jaime and Cersei. Jaime and Cersei.
Yes,
the end of Jaime and Cersei. It didn't actually feel like the end, though. Like, part of me doesn't want to accept that two of the best written characters on television were killed by rocks.
Stupid.
But here we are. They did away with Jaime's character arc so completely that perhaps that's like an apt analogy for, like, I go back to, for him to say that he didn't care about the small folk when he murdered a king to protect small folk. Then for him to compare himself to his sister that he has spent so much time distancing himself from, who he literally left not a season prior, and then just, like, comes back.
Yeah.
It just felt like a slap in the face to those who have been following his storyline so closely.
Yeah.
And, like, so lovingly. I've always liked Jaime Lannister in the books. He's great. Great POV, really interesting, kind of a dick, but that's what you expect. In the show, there was something that happened after season 4. There was just something about him, and the way that maybe it's Nikolai Coster-Waldau, I don't know. They wrote him better. They started writing him well, and that is maybe one thing that they did really well after not having the books to go off of, is that they gave Jaime a solid story that didn't have anything to do with what he was doing in the books. And development.
He was growing. We could see him growing as a person.
So for him to go back to Cersei and just, like, nothing, like, to have Cersei be reduced to a weeping woman, and, like, well, first of all, I'm not upset to see Cersei's humanity, but we've seen it before. We know she's a human being. She might be mad and insane, but she spent this entire, like, season sipping wine and staring out of a window. She's not a villain.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It just, like, they did away with two amazing characters in a way that felt really crappy.
Yeah, it seemed like they were scared to take any sort of risks with them or something. I honestly don't know. Like, but I was so hoping he was heading towards King's Landing to kill Cersei, because that would have been a perfect character arc. It would have tied into the prophecy that
Valonqar.
That exactly, and I just. It's beyond me that
prophecy apparently doesn't matter.
Apparently doesn't matter. And I was trying to justify it. I was like, well, when they died, he kind of had his hand on her neck, and
no.
It was so upsetting.
He brought her to the place where she died.
Yeah, but
they probably would have died anyway. So
yeah.
I don't.
There was no reason to not give these two characters a better ending.
I agree.
And I mean,
it just felt cheap.
It felt cheap, and it felt lazy. It felt lazy above all. I mean, it really, really did. It's actually interesting. The arcs that were the most successful in this episode and in previous were some of the, not smallest, but, like, smaller characters, like the Hound, not a main character, and got one of the most satisfying arcs.
I would even argue
Theon.
I would even argue, like, Grey Worm, his arc is not positive, but, like, his character change. I believe that he would act the way that he did in this episode after losing Missandei, because they have set that up through the last however many seasons that Missandei and Grey Worm have been together.
Yes.
He has always said, I didn't have fear until I met you. My fear is you. So Grey Worm breaking makes sense and is good storytelling.
100%.
That storyline, it all, like, Grey Worm returning back to who he was, makes sense because of what he's gone through. Because they've been building toward that, and they've been building the Hound toward killing his brother and toward dying with his brother.
Right. Jaime, on the other hand, I mean, even just the idea that he gave that whole speech to Brienne and then didn't justify it by killing Cersei and then dying in doing that doesn't make any sense to me. Like, he never would have hurt Brienne in that way unless he was trying to, like, as my boyfriend put it, white fang her. Where it's just like, I'm gonna distance myself from you because I know I'm not coming back from this because I have to go do something to help us out.
Right. I have to go take care of something. Yes. I cannot let you get any closer to me because it's gonna hurt you more in the long run because I'm not coming back.
Right.
Oh, man. Oh, man. And it's interesting when you brought up Theon. And when you compare, like, Jaime and Theon, these are the two characters, arguably, that have had the most redemptive story arc.
Yes.
Because they've both been villains. Right?
Yeah.
They've both been villains. And they both died, or were supposed to die, as heroes.
And with redeeming qualities.
One, like, they both wanted to be redeemed, but, like, thought it was impossible.
Right.
And through the course of their actions and story, Theon was redeemed and Jaime was on the road to redemption.
He was.
And something happened, T-squared, that apparently caused him to just renege and go back and retcon.
Yep.
Literally all of his qualities.
It's like he recorded over the Jaime VHS.
It is like they recorded over a Jaime VHS. It's just like, what? This is so not. Like,
this is the wrong thing. I wanted to watch the real story, the other
story.
Give
me the real story. You're lying to me. This is not real. Lies. So that's how I feel. That's how we feel. Yeah. About Jaime and about Cersei too, because Cersei either should have been killed by Jaime or by Tyrion or by Arya or by, like, she should have gotten killed.
We shouldn't have seen Euron die on screen. I didn't care. I don't want to see him die. I wanted to see him die, like, off screen. I didn't care. I just wanted to be like, oh, vaguely aware maybe that he died somewhere in the ocean. I don't care. I wanted to see Cersei die on screen.
Me too, man.
Like,
we deserve that. Yes, we deserve that.
They gave us Joffrey's horrific death. We saw Ned Stark die. They gave us Ramsay's horrific death.
Most villains.
Most villains.
And Ned Stark, because apparently you threw him in there.
That's true. I guess just, like, characters that were given, like, ample screen time in their death. And, like, the one character that they spend time on showing us die this season is Euron Greyjoy. Freaking Greyjoy.
I feel so gypped.
Is like the...
I feel so taken advantage of.
He's like... No, the Jack Sparrow Barbie that your younger sister cuts all the hair off of and changes into a different outfit.
And draws the eyeliner, even more eyeliner on.
Yes.
And, like, makes her own outfits for him.
Yeah, because he was made from a action figure of a My Chemical Romance boy. But is this toy that I've made up. And I don't understand why any of us had to see him get a death.
I killed Jaime Lannister. No, you didn't, pal.
No, you didn't. He
Rocks
didn't deserve anything. God, I can't. Okay.
Boulders killed Jaime Lannister. Thank you very much.
The environment.
You do not get that. You don't get that.
And he died thinking he got that. And I don't like that. I don't like the fact that he died thinking he did anything good for himself. No.
Me neither.
No. It's not
Bye.
Okay. Bye.
Bye-bye. So the last scene before we get into the Dany stuff is this the scene of Arya, who, like, going through at the aftermath of King's Landing, and all of a sudden, in the distance, she sees a white horse. She gets on the white horse
and rides off into the sunset, like at the end of
any Western.
Yeah,
literally
Unforgiven.
Literally, Unforgiven. Westeros. Red Dead Redemption.
Ooh.
Red
Keep Redemption.
I was going there. I was gonna come up with something.
You were getting there.
Yeah. It was. So you told me that there are a few theories about this scene.
Yes, you disproved them quickly, which I'm glad because they were stupid. They weren't stupid. I'm glad that it didn't go this route because it would have been very like lost a little bit.
Yes.
One of the theories was that she died, and her getting on the white horse was actually kind of like a send-off of, oh, well, there she goes into the great white light that we all walk into at the
Twin
end.
Peaks on us, basically.
Exactly.
Like, okay, guys.
Cool.
Like, a weird, like, I don't even know, like out of body ending, like I don't even know.
Like weird, like let's get metaphorical and
right,
like
which
vision-y
they've
with it
literally
now.
never done before.
Yeah.
Like the white horse's death in like death rides a white horse, I believe in the Bible.
Yes. Yeah,
but we're not in. They follow the seven. The seven.
Yeah,
it's the seven.
What if there were 7 white horses? And she
now
that
see
would
that
have been stupid.
Arya rides all of them.
All of them.
She's like, all right, line them up.
Oh my god, I have my army.
I've got my army of white horses. Here we go. No, Arya is straight up in the promo for the next episode.
Yes.
So I don't believe that she's died unless she's a ghost haunting the Dothraki horde that has since survived and the Unsullied. But she is in a promo for the next episode.
I would love if she was just a ghost haunting Westeros now. That's like what I want to be canon. That'd be great. That would be the best character choice they could have
done for Arya.
For anyone.
Like, nah, kid, you're dead.
You're a ghost now.
But you're a ghost. So you get to watch all this aftermath and everything that happens after this. So yeah. Now it's time. I think we've gone through the episode as the major plot points. Here's what every character went through. Yes. And now
let's talk about Dany. Let's talk about our queen.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
I would say any source of controversy, any major source of controversy, the main topic has been what the hell happened with Dany. Yeah.
So, yes. Obviously, she murders all of King's Landing.
Thousands of innocent people.
Women, children, men,
doesn't
dogs,
matter.
Probably, animals, all horses, clearly. She kills a bunch of horses.
Yep. The Dothraki look like they're assaulting people, which is exactly what she would have hated.
So do the Northmen.
Yeah.
John literally stops a Northman from raping one woman.
Oh, I thought that was a Dothraki.
Nope. I'm pretty sure that was a Northman.
Oh.
Like, straight up. So
that's you're right.
And then he stabs him. He stabs one of his own. In the aftermath of all this.
You're totally right. I was thinking of a scene where a Dothraki rode by. Oh my god. Yep. Okay, yeah.
Yeah. So, okay. Obviously, you and I both think that, we've talked about this a lot, the issue is not that Dany went mad.
Right. I wouldn't even argue that she went mad. I think she got pissed.
That's like, people are now arguing. People are arguing she's mad. We said she was pissed last episode. I don't know what this is then. Like, this is like, peeved?
She's just a little ticked.
Ticked off. Just slightly ticked.
She's a little annoyed.
I'm just gonna kill a bunch of people because I'm a little annoyed right now.
It's like how you feel when you have wet shoes.
Yeah, like wet socks or something.
Yeah.
It's like, you take your shoes off at the office.
Oh,
and
this
you've
is
got,
a
like,
minor
wet
inconvenience.
Sock, and you're like, man, I have to deal with this
is
all day
now.
Yeah. God. So that's what. But so the issue that we have is, like, it's not her descent into this. It's it's how quickly it happened. Yes. And how it seems very, like, it just seems very all of a sudden. It seems very just like, I'm not saying that I'm upset that Dany has done this and that she's now the villain of the show, which obviously that's what they're going toward.
Right.
It's that they did not give themselves enough time to tell this story.
No, they didn't. And here's the thing is, there's one article, I believe it was a BuzzFeed one that you shared with me, where they said foreshadowing is not the same as building up an arc or building up a story.
Right.
Foreshadowing is a convenient way in, like, this specific case, for the writers to say, oh, it was foreshadowed by picking specific points and saying, like, well, this happened, therefore, like, we definitely built to it. They didn't, though. Like, it was always hinted that Dany might go the path of her father. Barristan, and we've talked about this a lot, Barristan was very adamant about warning her, hey, what you're doing all the time. He was constantly concerned about that. He had firsthand experience with what her father's role was like.
He was of the Kingsguard when that happened.
And he's warned her before, hey, listen, if you're going down this route, you're going down the route of your father. Like, make sure you don't become him. That was very prevalent for a long time. And Dany's been brutal. I mean, to look at Dany and not say that to say she hasn't done horrific things in the past, she has. The difference has been who she's done it to.
Right.
But at the same time, she's done horrific things. But then they took maybe 2 seasons where they didn't touch on that internal conflict at all.
No.
The internal conflict of do I be better, right, or do I go down the path of fire and blood of my father?
Right. There was not even a semblance of or an indication that she was experiencing this or that she was going down this path.
Not at all. There was for a while, and then it completely got cut off and stopped.
I think it was like in season 6. Or no, season 6 maybe?
Maybe before that.
Season 5, like it didn't feel like Dani was headed down the path of darkness in any way.
No. For a long time.
I've said this entire season, Dani's allowed to be pissed, angry about what happened and the state of events since she's landed on Westeros. And I have no issue with her being the villain. Having Dani as the villain actually seems like it will happen in the books. I think that the payoff will be worth it because we've been in her head the entire time. Mm-hmm. We know what she's going through, and we will follow her down that descent of madness. In the show, as you said, it just felt too rushed. Dani has spent her entire life fighting against the idea that she's her father. Yes, as you mentioned, she has murdered those who has defied her. But most of those were slavers and rapers. The Great Master.
Yes, she did kill all the Great Masters, but even then we could kind of see a little glimpse of her maybe not making the most right, or maybe diving into a decision before really thinking it over and diving into something a conqueror would do, maybe not something a ruler
or leader
or somebody who plays the game would do, because Hisdar, back when they were in Marine, his father was one of the slave masters who was crucified.
Yeah.
And he was pretty vocal in talking to Dani about how even though his father was a slave master, he was very vocal about being extremely against what the other slave masters were doing to children, of the slaves. They were crucifying children. So in the past, we have gotten glimpses that Dani has maybe not always killed people she should have been killing. Like when all the slave masters were, again, crucified on the walls of the city, which, by the way, really horrific. Like, I mean, I understand, like, they were not good people.
Well, it's what they'd done to the children.
It's what they had done to the children. But how many of them didn't do that?
Right.
You gotta wonder now.
Right, and here's the thing is, like, she was young, and I agree. She probably should have gotten some advice on that. She should have asked any one of her advisors at that moment.
Yes.
Okay, so, but she doesn't. Dani acts as Dani will. And that is, Dani, she does. I get that. But she also always acts at the behest of those she believes have been wronged.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. I will face injustice with justice.
With justice. So burning innocent people that have done no harm to her seems wildly out of character for her in this moment in time. Where we are following her story, where she's been leading up to this point, it just feels very like a stark contrast to what we've been seeing. Yeah. She's too clever of a character, or so we thought, to know that this won't end, that this is going, like, she doesn't think this is going to end well for her.
No.
Does she? By murdering thousands of people. She's been a liberator up until this point of the free and of those who have been, you know, stomped on and taken advantage of. Like, she has been Misa. She's been the mother to a lot of, like, those people. So for her to come this close to an actual peaceful ending, only to have a lapse of judgment, or as D Squared so lovingly lays it out for us, Jon tells her that he does not want to bang his aunt anymore. So she decides she just has to get things done in a way that is, and I quote, not so pleasant. Not so pleasant. So basically,
not so pleasant.
She got dumped and murdered her entire population, is what they kind of try to frame it as.
Which doesn't make, I mean, it doesn't make sense for a lot of reasons, but one of the reasons it doesn't make sense is, okay, we're looking at a character who, again, she's a conqueror. Mm-hmm. She has never played the game, in my opinion anyway.
No,
she
doesn't even know how to play the game.
She has no idea how to actually play the game. I read a review at one point who said, and there was a line that just said, Cersei's better at the game than Dani is, which she is. That's absolutely true. Cersei is better at the game because Dani doesn't know how to play the game. This is the first time she's ever had to. And I think in a moment of extreme, you know, I've lost pretty much everyone close to me who I've loved and who's loved me, I think there was a snap where she decided, you know what? I'm just going to fall back on what I know. And it was conquering, which is not justifying what she did. Wouldn't you think that it would be only natural for her to look at this city, a city that has now surrendered to her and is full of people who, just like in Essos, would have maybe been happy to have just a different ruler come in. Who
Cersei
maybe
literally blew up the Sept of Baelor.
Yes.
She murdered so many innocent people.
Her people don't love her. They have no good feelings towards her. Even Tyrion said it. Like, they don't like her.
No.
Dany had a perfect opportunity to have a kingdom that would have maybe loved her, that maybe she could have been the Misa to, which is all she loved doing. Like, in essence, like, that's what she was really good at. She didn't need to burn and everything and everyone in the city to make it hers, and also to win their love. Like, that wouldn't have probably, and I don't know, you look at how her trip through her arrival into Westeros went, and obviously, like, she got there, nobody wanted her there.
Right, it's not so good. However,
different situation.
She could have landed anywhere.
Right.
She did not need to go north first. If she had gone south, I bet she would have been way better welcomed.
I completely agree. The North is not open to even accepting people who are ruling in Westeros because they want to be their own thing.
So why did she go north? Like, what?
John.
Well, but John wasn't.
And the war.
But they didn't meet until, like, she was already at Westeros. Like, who? You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, she was at Dragonstone, right? She could have gone to King's Landing. She was actually right. Honestly, Daenerys was kind of right. They should have gone to King's Landing first, because once she's proven that she can take the Red Keep and overthrow Cersei, it's going to be way easier to get the North to side with you. Yeah. So again, I think this is just bad writing. It's bad writing. They are trying to set it up so that Dany is mad. There's no other reason for it. Yeah. That is what I see. They based the choice off of Dany isn't loved, and then they tried. Like, they hearken all the way back to when she watched her brother get the golden crown, and then you've always seen she's got madness in her. It's like, no.
He was abusive and a psychopath.
And treated her like she was barely human, and sold her to literally a horde of... Like a horde of people.
And she was actually compassionate towards him up until then. Like, she protected him from the Dothraki at one point, oh my god, I don't remember what happened, but he, like, had her by the throat and was being awful because Viserys is awful. Yeah. And the Dothraki intercepted and kind of threatened to hurt him, and she said, no, don't touch him, like, it's fine. Right. She was compassionate to him for a long time, and he didn't deserve it.
So you can use the excuse that he was an awful character that no one liked, but at the end of the day, his death meant something, right? Yeah. His death was, I don't think that her looking at him in that way was her being like, yes, burn.
No.
He was mad. I believe that Viserys was a little cray-cray.
And also, he wasn't a dragon.
No. And she says that.
Yeah.
So clearly, she knows that she has the fire of a dragon inside of her. Yeah. That didn't need to be used as literal fire. That's all I'm saying. Really you could take any moment where any character watches someone die and turn it and say, oh, well, the way that they looked. Like, I don't believe, like, you're picking and choosing. And like what you said earlier, they're picking and choosing plot points.
They are. Sansa watched Ramsay die. Again, character who deserved it.
Literally. Arya. Sansa watched Joffrey die. Arya has watched Walder Frey die.
And his entire line.
Catelyn, I'm sure, like, Catelyn Stark watched people die, you know? Bran watched Ned Stark murder the brother of the Night's Watch. Like, people die and watch people die all the time.
Ruthlessly, yeah.
And honestly, people watch people they don't love dying all the time. And they're okay with it. Yeah. And Dany being okay with it in that moment is not indicative of her being mad by any means.
It's them using a convenient... it's them using something from the past to justify what they're doing now, which is, I think that they just didn't know this is how they wanted the show to end.
It's a hole that they wrote themselves into. Yeah. They wrote themselves into a hole.
And they filled it with a past event that had actually nothing to do with her mental health or this.
Her doing this feels set up. It doesn't feel organic. It doesn't feel right to her story.
No, it feels jammed in.
If they had made her mad last season, when she states, you know, last season that they're not going to go to King's Landing and raze it to the ground, what if she had? What if she'd been like, you know what? You're right. Fine, I'm gonna go. See you later. Takes her 3 dragons to King's Landing, takes that over, is the queen in the south, and then they have the Night King, who is this impending environmental threat that they're like, oh, Dani, we need you. And she's like, no, I don't, good luck. And then all of a sudden she shows up at the last minute. Yeah. And like, you think she's going to defeat the Night King, but she actually like goes on his side or something like that. Like anything. Like that. This just feels wrong. It doesn't feel organic. It just doesn't.
No, I completely agree. And like we said before, I really like the idea that she becomes the villain. I love that. Like, that's something I've kind of wanted for a long time because, I don't know, it's kind of like, I hate to quote Ramsay Bolton, but what Ramsay Bolton said, if you think this has a happy ending, you haven't been paying attention. I never expected the show to end happy for her character or any character. But as soon as the bells rang and she started, she did a complete erasing of her character, of her character's morals, really. Yeah. That's when it completely fell apart for me.
I agree.
It made no sense.
I really wish this season would have had, Jon and Arya and Sansa dealing with the impending doom of the Night King and the actual Mad Queen of the South. And instead, we got Cersei sipping on wine again and staring out a window. She literally did nothing this entire season.
Yep.
Much like Bran.
Much like Bran, much like the Night King, honestly.
Right. So it's like
all useless.
So useless villains up until this villain who's been a hero this entire time. Like, you're telling me that you did away with all of those characters' story to tell Dany's vengeance story?
Yeah.
How is that right to the Night King or to Cersei or
to us?
To the audience. Like, it just feels cheap. It feels wrong. It doesn't feel like
easy. It feels easy.
It feels like what you said last week, which is, they went through and like went on Reddit and went on all these websites and were like, oh God, they figured us out. Yeah. They figured us out. We got to tell a different story now. And they retconned everything.
They retconned stuff. That's, yep, I'm just going to say I completely agree, but you were saying a point I said, so that would, so I'd be like, yes, I do agree with myself.
Yes, I agree with myself. Yes, yeah. No, they totally, and
retconned.
It's extremely frustrating.
It's very frustrating, and it's just kind of sad. Like, I mean, when you and me were talking, we came up with a better, I like your better ending, which would have been Dany being the villain previous season, and then this season, them having to deal with the Night King and Dany as a villain and her.
Because she's been built up as a villain for the last season and these episodes. So we've been spending the last 2 years being like, oh my God, Dany was revealed as a villain.
Right, holy,
will she ever be?
That'd be so
will
great.
They be able to find her again, or is she just mad and gone?
Or even in this episode, if they had done something where maybe last episode they didn't kill one of her dragons. She had both dragons, and then it's at one point in this episode, maybe the bells ring, Cersei's given up, but then, oh, who's that? It's douche Lord Euron, and he has the one last scorpion that's left, and he kills one of her dragons, and then she decides, you know what? Screw it.
I've lost my Dothraki horde.
I've
lost my best friend in the world. I just had to kill one of my advisors.
I don't care if she's surrendered. I'm killing everybody.
And my child. You just murdered my child.
Yep.
Absolutely not.
Absolutely
and then
not.
she kills everybody.
Like, and then it would be justified because it's like, well, you just surrendered, but you also just killed my dragon, so you know what? Burn them all.
Right.
Even just that would have been like, you know what? And it would have made more sense. I don't know. There's just it's so frustrating when the fans can come up with so many better ways.
Right.
For a show to go than the people who are actually in charge of it. And they kind of know it. They won't make eye contact.
No. They won't even look at us in our balls.
No, they won't.
They won't look at us. Look at me. Look me in my balls when you mess up these characters that I love.
My squishy face balls.
These balls.
Look at me in my seeing grapes.
Directly in these grapes I got. I don't know. So the last thing I kind of want to touch on is obviously we're pretty mean about this plot development. We're not happy with it. But I do want to say how it actually does make sense in terms of history. Not Dany's actions.
Not the killing innocent people part.
Right. No, actually the killing innocent people does make sense. Dany's actions in her character don't make sense. However, this killing of innocent people, I mean, Westeros was built on this, right? You don't have to look like very far in the past to see that. Robert Baratheon did it to the Targaryens, straight up, so that's not that long ago. Houses in the Seven Kingdoms fight constantly for power, and because of this, bloodshed is inevitable.
Aegon Targaryen did it when he was conquering Westeros 300 years ago.
Tywin Lannister obliterated House Rayne. King Theon Stark, way back in the day, defended the North against the Andal invasion, defeating this warlord, a Argos 7-star. He then sailed across the sea, showing the warlord's body off as a figurehead on his ship, and then laid waste to tens of hundreds of Andal villages, burning all the women and children and babies. So,
guy.
Just because he wanted to. He was like, no, you don't get to come over here. This is what happens when you try and invade.
That's cool. That's fun.
So we don't have to look much further than Arya killing the entire Frey family or the Red Wedding's mutilation of the Northern forces to know that characters can move on from trauma and tragedy. I just think that the line has been blurred now between who the heroes are and who the villains are. The heroes that we saw in the Battle of Westeros raped and pillaged innocents, and yet we still kind of see them as heroes because they've been who we've been following.
Well, raped and pillaged innocents under a queen who has up until this point been absolutely against that.
Right.
Absolutely, like 100% absolutely against that.
The show has an extremely blurred vision of black and white and what it means to be good versus evil, and so it's just. So I get it. I get it happening, and I get that Westeros will be able to move forward and Dany will probably be able to be queen. That, like, it would make sense. Like, yes, she raised King's Landing, but also that's kind of how it works in Westeros. Mm-hmm. So it will work. The actual act of it happening now with the story that they've chosen to tell so far.
I agree. It's an action that doesn't make sense for her character, but does make sense in the history. I don't personally actually, I don't know, because those previous instances of it happening to, just giant groups of people and like whole cities, was that after a city had surrendered? Because this whole city surrendered, like the army surrendered.
Cersei that's a good point. That's a good point. Right. I mean, the Andals were just, innocents that he sailed over there and decided to kill because the Andals had invaded. Yeah. Tywin, House Rayne, they openly challenged his father's misruling of the Westerlands. They were lulled into a false sense of security, and then Tywin murdered them all.
Yeah. But even then, they were opposing the person in charge. So I guess what I'm saying is
there was none of that in this episode.
Right. Exactly. It was a full surrender. It was a full, we were waving the white flag.
Right.
And
we literally, the bells rang out in a song of surrender.
Yeah.
And she blew them all to hell.
Hell's bells.
Yeah. So to those who say we should have seen this coming.
Oh.
Thanks. Thank you so much for your opinion, but there's more to it than that.
There's so much more to it, including storytelling.
Well, this is where it gets personal, right? This is where this divisive nature of this episode comes into being, because some people are just okay with this.
Yeah.
Some people are like, yeah, Dany's mad. Let's do it. Let's go. I'm not going to say that you're wrong. I'm not. I disagree.
Because of the method.
Mm-hmm. Because I don't like the way that they wrote it. But I think that's kind of what makes this episode one for the history books, because it's the first episode that has this audience so intensely divided.
Yes, I completely agree. I also, just kind of like, speaking of being able to look back and maybe not predict this, because again, like the way that the story was told, it didn't allude to Dany getting here the past like 2 seasons. But when it was, she was talking a lot about breaking the wheel. And now we kind of see that she's not only not breaking the wheel, she's rolling it forward and keeping it going and basically repeating history, which has been a huge theme in this show. I mean, this season even started with a huge harkening back to the first episode, where they had almost, scene for scene exact moments play out the same way. So I do think it's interesting that so much of history, whether it's the way that she goes about conquering in a very Targaryen fashion or in a way that mirrors her father.
Well, history...
She hasn't broken the wheel. If anything, she's continuing to do what her family has done for years and years and years.
And her whole thing this entire time, and what the writers have been telling us her story is to break the wheel.
Yeah.
And so it's sad to see that this is what they meant.
Yeah.
I was really hoping for something more. And I look, the show is not over yet. There is one more episode that they are going to finish out this story with. Mm-hmm. I do believe it will end with Dany dying.
I think so too.
At this point, the story that they have chosen to tell with her, it seems her death is inevitable. Mm-hmm. so that kind of sucks because literally one of our main female characters is just about to, because she went evil and murdered a bunch of people. This episode will constantly be talked about. I think,
yes,
as in terms of history of Game of Thrones, this is an episode that's not going away anytime soon.
No. I think, if anything, this episode proved that this show fell victim to the standards it itself set up.
Yes.
Game of Thrones set itself to this extremely... It set its bar really high. It set the bar for itself very high. And so I think that for a normal show, the penultimate episode of the show that we got in this episode was good.
No, I agree. Had this happened last year,
yes,
I actually think that this would have been an okay story.
Right.
But they've waited so long, and there's already been so many issues that I can't let this one go.
It's not the same level of storytelling that they promised and that they've built up. And I mean, again, like, I liked this episode. I really liked this episode. So it's almost weird to like gripe about it, just because I think we'll always just gripe about the show, like whether or not we love an episode. I really loved it, but the episode and what ultimately kind of like, big picture happens to these characters isn't really the problem. The problem I have with it is the storytelling and the pacing. Storytelling and pacing, those are the two pitfalls this show has had for a long time.
Well, and I think it also just really, I mean, it let us down in a lot of ways. It let a lot of characters down. Whether or not, like, you agree with Dany, I do think that, like, Cersei and Jaime, that's a really big letdown in a lot of ways for like the majority of the audience.
Oh yeah, book readers and non-book readers, like, I've heard his character is fantastic in the books. He was starting to get there in the show too. I mean, he was really a great character, and I don't know why they did what they did with him. Ultimately, in this episode, the only bells that should have been rung were bells of shame.
Shame.
Shame. Shame.
Ding ding ding. I think that's a kind of a perfect way to end today's episode. A few things, just like wrap up. I hope we see Yara next episode, just to get a little bit of love on the Greyjoy end of things.
Yeah, where's Yara?
Obviously they're gonna need some help defeating Dany, so any help they can get.
To hear.
I know, I did. It felt weird. Felt weird coming out of my mouth. We did not travel north in this episode, so I'm guessing that's where this will end. In Winterfell, or around Winterfell, or near Winterfell, because we've got half our cast there and half of our cast in King's Landing, and it has to end with some of them being together.
Yes,
it has to. Please, you're not just gonna not ever let Sansa and Jon see each other again.
They might.
Okay. Whew. Okay, cool. So, next episode. My last question kind of for you, Carly. I believe Bran will be on the throne at the end of Game of Thrones. Just because they've constantly been alluding to the person who is going to be on the throne doesn't want to be on the throne, and Bran doesn't want. So, that to me is just a very obvious. They're just telling us as it is. It's going to be Bran. He knows everything. It's so clear. So who do you think? Do you think there is going to be a throne? Yeah. 2, who do you think will be on it?
Ooh, okay.
I asked you at the beginning, and now I'm asking you now.
Yeah.
One more episode to go.
Yeah, which is, oh my God, I can't believe that. So as far, the question of whether there'll be a throne was a lot easier for me to answer at the beginning of the season, because I thought it would be taken over by the Night King. It wouldn't matter anymore. Somebody would break it. Like, it would
you and me both.
Yep. Thought that was going to happen. I think there is going to be one now.
Me too.
I just can't see it being. I can't see that cycle.
Cool.
I'm bored thinking about. I don't want Bran to be on the throne. I'm sorry. I don't.
hope it happens even more now.
I hope he dies. I hate Bran.
You can't kill the
Bad Raven. I hate Bran so much.
I love Bran so because you hate him.
I wish the Night King killed him.
All right.
I think he's the Night King. Anyway. Which doesn't make sense anymore.
But I'm in every episode.
I'm gonna stick by it because I don't know what to do anymore with his character.
He's king. That's what it is.
So I think there is gonna be a throne. For better or for worse. I think the cycle is just repeating itself again. We're starting again with a bad Targaryen. We'll see what happens. I mean,
it's kind of like all you always return to your roots is really the theme of this show at the end of the day. So.
Yeah, actually, I like maybe it's true.
Maybe that is the case. There will be a throne, and Westeros is stuck in this inevitable
cycle.
Yeah.
And it's, oh my God, it's the Lost ending, and it's just been limbo the whole time. Anyway.
At least he had his dog at the end of Lost.
Little victories.
Tiny victories.
As far as who will be on the throne, man, I hope it's Sansa.
Yeah.
Sansa. What? Sansa.
Are you from? Where are you from?
I'm from the good old Midwest. That's not our accent.
Midwesteros. That's where we're from.
We're from Midwesteros. Oh,
Yes.
let me just tell you a little bit about the story here. No, I really want and hope that Sansa.
You got it.
No, that's
you got it right the that time.
I want Sansa to be on the throne because she doesn't really want it. And I think that would be fitting. You know, she's not somebody who's jumping or like chewing at the bit to, you know, get to the throne. I think she'd be a good leader. I think she's pragmatic. I think she's fair, without being ruthless.
Yep.
And I think she's learned from the best. I mean, with her, and then with, you know, if she marries Tyrion, the two of them could rule forever.
We can dream. And then Bran just sits in the weirwood and we forget about him. Look,
forever. Please.
If I could have any ending, I think that's what I would love, is to have Sansa and Tyrion somehow ruling. But honestly,
have the women win.
Have the women. God, please let the women win.
Please.
We've been losing so much in this show. Let them win. I love that ending, but I don't think we're going to get happiness. I think we'll get boring Bran on the throne, because he's all-knowing, and
he's the Night King.
Well, he's the closest thing we have to a magical being that equates to the Night King.
He's the one we don't need or deserve or want.
I disagree. I love my boy Bran, okay? I know he's a lump, but I have to believe he's worth something.
A lump.
He's gotta be. Do Bran justice. Do justice by Bran. Okay. I think we're done with this episode.
Yeah. I would say we didn't even have as many problems with this episode as we have as we did with like the previous episode.
No.
It's just more like the depth of them, I guess. But anyway, yeah.
It's more of like it's like a sinking.
It's being a disappointed parent.
Yeah. It's again with the disappointment. I feel like we've made this reference before. It's again with a disappointed parent. Like, I'm not mad. No. I'm just disappointed.
I expected more.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, it's better than a C-. This show is better than a C-.
It is. And this was that. No, I mean, this episode wasn't actually a C-.
You're right.
This episode was really
good.
good.
Sorry, I was still talking about the previous. Yeah. This episode was very
good.
That
episode was a C-. The Last of the Starks.
Yes.
But The Bells was a beautiful episode. It's just what happened in it.
And how it happened.
And how it happened is problematic. With that being said, we are done with The Bells. We are closing my laptop, shutting the door on it. We're not talking about it anymore.
May it forever rest in the rubble of King's Landing.
Nice.
Thank you.
Nice.
Thank you so much.
That was beautiful.
But until the next episode, my name is Carly. You can find me on Twitter at Chillin555. That's at CHILLYN555. I'm always upset about that handle. Or on my website at carlinhill.com.
Yes, and my name is Sophia. That's my name. You can find me on Twitter at Commander Tully, one word. You can also follow the podcast on Twitter at YGGPod. Hit us up with what you thought about this episode. Please leave us a review on iTunes and or wherever you listen to us, because it really does help us out. And this is, the last of this season of Game of Thrones and YGG, but we have some things up our sleeves. So fear not. They are not empty promises.
They're not. No, the minisodes will happen eventually.
We had to do some work with
We got busy.
We both have full-time jobs.
We do.
It's just hard.
And
Excuses.
I know.
We're coming back strong. Thank you all so much for tuning in this week. We really do appreciate it. Let us know your thoughts on this and on Dany's descent into potential madness, and who you would like to sit on the throne.
Yes.
But until next time, the night is dark,
but full of Davos. Or not at all full of Davos, because he wasn't there very much.
Straight up not in it.
Not at all.
Where's your sword, Davos? Oh, no. The only
Davos?
reason I know he survived is because he's literally in the promo for the next episode.
That's all the promo did. It was just like, hey, listen, like...
These people survived.
They're right.